Audio is on and we are good to go.
Hey.
When Madam Mayor is ready.
Good evening. I am calling this meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. Monday, June 13th, 2022. Our invocation tonight will be given by Pastor Mario Navarro Jr. of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be given by Mayor Pro Tem Jim Ellis.
Put me in pledge of allegiance. Ready? Again. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Kong.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Mahovey.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis.
Here.
Mayor Schwartz.
Here.
Thank you.
Public comment. Notice to the public. This time is set aside to receive public comment on matters not calendared on the agenda. When recognized by the mayor, please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Under California law, the city council is prohibited from generally discussing or taking action on items not included in the agenda. However, the city council may briefly respond to comments or questions from members of the public. Therefore, the city council will listen to all public comment, but will not generally discuss the matter or take action on it. Does anyone have any public comment? Yes, please come up and state your name and address.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Council, my name is Rick Klug. I'm a pastor here in town and live on 1572 Rocking W. So not quite in the city limits, but here. And I just felt like I needed to respond to some of the comments at the end of last city council meeting. Many of us had to go, and I have something to go to also. Just wanted to say that I don't know how, it's like if things are misinterpreted, misunderstood, or what. I know that happens, and it's an emotionally charged subject. There is, in the statement that the Ministerial Association put out, there is no accusation. There is no calling anyone or even a class of people as molesters, which was brought up. And the truth is, I want you to know, I've been accused just because of my place in life and my faith. I've been accused of that and other things. Just feel like some of the stuff that's come out is inflammatory, and it's an emotionally charged subject. I know this was not a personal attack by any means, not against anybody. It wasn't specific to anyone, and it wasn't even a public attack. I would say a public statement, but that's what you do as a city council. And when we make public statements, we make public statements. Again, it wasn't about anyone. It was about the festival. There are a lot of accusations going around. I would say that I've heard a lot, I've read a lot. Not a lot of them are actually coming from the church. I'm just one representative, but the churches are praying, are making statements, which understandably, those statements sometimes damage relationships. And I'm sorry for that. We don't want that, but I think some of the things being said are patently untrue, and there hasn't been anger and bigotry and some of that. I do want to also say that I understand it, but I was disappointed, Ms. Mayor, in your response. Never in my years have I seen when when a 3 minutes was up, it cut off right then. It's always been, even in the chicken year. Some of you remember the chicken stuff. Please wrap up or whatever. And so I just felt like that was a bit unprofessional. And then to discuss, let's cancel the invocation. Maybe we should talk about that. Again, what that feels like is we're trying to vilify those who disagree with us and silence them. And And yes, I will be the first to say that the church has done that for years too. Over years, anybody in power tends to say, we're going to keep it whatever. I hope that you don't move that direction. Let's keep the dialogue. Let's not vilify each other. Let's not say, someone's evil. Again, for my faith, people have said I'm evil. Understand it. I expect better, and I believe better in this council. Again, I've been coming for nearly 17 years as a pastor here. I do believe that we are working together, that we disagree about highly emotional subjects, but we're in this small town together, and I will see you in your businesses and you'll see me on the street. And I hope that we can still agree to disagree on some of these things, have dialogue where we need to, and be cordial. And I know you can't respond much, and you said at the end that you wished that you thought about it. It's like, I would take response if it was allowed. Also, I can't stay. I wasn't planning to speak on the proclamation. I have another meeting waiting for me. But that's what we do in a close community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments? Okay. And I know we have some public comment that's posted on the website. All right, moving on to proclamations. We have a declaring June 2022 as Pride Month in the city of Bishop, requested by the city council. Starts with you.
You already read most of it. Okay. Bishop City Council proclamation declaring June 2022 as Pride Month. Whereas the City of Bishop value statement clearly states that we are welcoming of all people and are committed to reject all forms of discrimination. And whereas our nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth, that all men are created equal, and
whereas we call upon the people of the city to embrace these principles and work to eliminate prejudice and discrimination everywhere it exists. And whereas despite decades of discrimination, LGBTQ+ individuals have had immeasurable impact to our cultural, civic, and economic successes of our country. And
whereas we honor the history of the LGBTQ+ liberation movement, and we support the rights of all citizens to experience equality and freedom from discrimination. And whereas we are committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ+ people in our diverse community, people who are our neighbors, our families, our friends. And
whereas while society at large increasingly supports LGBTQ+ equality, it is essential to acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for the LGBTQ+ community, and is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. And
whereas recognizing Pride Month reinforces that the city of Bishop is an inclusive place to live, work, and visit. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Karen Schwartz, Mayor of the City of Bishop, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2022 as Pride Month in support of the LGBTQ+ community. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Bishop to be affixed this 13th day of June 2022. All right, and thank you for the Pride soap. All right. Now we're moving on to the County of Inyo update report, prepared and presented by 2nd District Supervisor Jeff Griffiths.
no,
Oh, it's a proclamation.
proclamate. We don't do whatever you guys do there.
We're proclaiming.
We've already done that. Yeah.
Well, ours took 4.5 hours. Mono County took 11 minutes. You guys took about 45 seconds. Like somehow it seemed fair. But I will point out that I spoke to one of my colleagues in Mono County, and they were upset that Inyo County was the first entity in the Eastern Sierra to declare Pride Month. So we'll take that 4.5 hours if we get that credit. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. My name is Jeff Griffiths. I'm the second district supervisor. I'm here to give my city council update. A lot of the same old subjects, but some new things coming on. I wanted to give you an update on the activities of the broadband task force that's been working throughout the county. As you know, there's a tremendous amount of funding that's coming down both through the state of California and through the federal government regarding broadband. Inyo County is currently in the process of doing the planning of how we're going to implement broadband in the area. We are expected to be awarded an RCRC grant soon to do the strategic planning, and that will be augmented by a local agency technical assistance grant from the state of California. Fortunately, we have a lot of the on the work ground done because of the previous broadband planning efforts done with the 21st Century Obsidian project. But we hope to be first in line as far as it comes to rural counties and finding that technical assistance and getting to actual shovel-ready projects. Most of these projects will benefit the more rural areas of our community as opposed to the city of Bishop, although there will be open access middle mile projects that will access the city of Bishop that should be able to improve competitiveness. I believe on your agenda 2 weeks from now, as well as our agenda at the Board of Supervisors 2 weeks from now, we'll have an update from Frontier to talk about their activities for upgrading their system to try to get gigabit service in the city of Bishop and in the northern regions of the county. There was a project awarded through Caltrans. Caltrans is doing some of the other middle mile projects through the area, but the Inyo County area was awarded a project through Caltrans that will put fiber along 190 from basically Lone Pine through Death Valley to the Nevada border, opening up that whole area of the county for broadband. So we're pretty excited about that. I wanted to give you an update about commercial air service. Apologies to Jim and Karen, because you already heard all of this because you were at SCOG, but we finally got the numbers on how we did this winter, our first winter of commercial air service. The Denver numbers were through the roof, were very high. The San Francisco numbers were fairly steady from pre-COVID levels, and the Los Angeles numbers were down quite a bit. The thought is that for those people who are coming up to go skiing, that when you add the time to drive to LAX, go through all of the security and everything, and then get to Bishop and get on a bus or a shuttle or something, that it's probably best to just drive. So it looks like in the future, the LA service is just going to be dropped. But the Denver service is going to be expanded if possible. We had a total of 10,000 enplanements. I'm sorry, 8,000 enplanements, which is about 16,000 actual passengers over the winter. And the magic number that we want to get to is 10,000, because that's what gets us our $1 million a year entitlement from the FAA for operations at the airport. And we feel fairly confident with summer service and then whatever service we have in November and December that we will easily get to that 10,000 enplanement number.
10,000 per year?
It's 10,000 per year, correct. And it's the 10,000 is a round trip. 10,000 round trips is how it's figured out. The most exciting news about it, of over the entire winter, we had a total of 1/2 of a cancellation due to weather. That 1/2 actually happened in Denver, not in Bishop, and they flew a plane in from Arizona in order to pick people up in Bishop and fly them back to Denver. So as far as the purpose of eliminating those weather-related uncertainties and increasing reliability, it was a gigantic success. They did a survey of all of the visitors and asked them where they were going. And a total of 14% of them were going to Bishop, which with a tiny handful going to Death Valley or other regions of southern Inyo. So a vast majority of them were going to Bishop. But then when you looked at the people who, vast majority of them were going to Mammoth, but then you look at the people who were going to Bishop, and it was locals and friends and family, and a handful of people recreating. So it's kind of what we expected as far as for the Inyo area, Bishop Inyo area. For us, it's a lifeline service, and it's a quality of life and a convenience, as opposed to our neighbors to the north, where it's a large tourism driver. We'll see how the summer numbers go and what that means. Right now, there is the one flight that goes to San Francisco. It's currently only on the weekends, and then it moves to, I believe, 6 days a week, 6 days a week, no Saturdays, moving forward. And then we'll have another break, and then the regular winter service will start again. The goal for next year is to have no shoulder season, no breaks in service. And Mammoth Lakes Tourism is looking at other markets to expand to, since we don't have the LA route. And so they're looking at Dallas, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, and Seattle. So it'll be really interesting to see. On the infrastructure side, Inyo County is moving forward with the terminal, the new terminal building. As you know, the terminal that's there is just a temporary sprung structure in order to make it happen as quickly as possible. But we're looking for a terminal that will be able to handle as many as 4 airplanes at one time. That is what we did during our environmental planning. And so the location of it would be basically as you drive into the airport, if you didn't turn towards Tai Tai and you just went straight, that's where the new terminal will be. Looking at a giant park, a good sized parking area in there, and then a nice modern terminal. Fortunate news for us is that there are monies through the recently passed infrastructure bill that are specifically dedicated towards airport terminals. We do have to go through an environmental process. It's not as complicated as an environmental process as you would think, because we already did the impact planning of it ahead of time when we did the environmental planning for the airport as a whole. So it's literally just looking at the footprint of where the new terminal will go. So we're looking at getting that planning and design and environmental work done now, and perhaps construction in 2025, 2026, somewhere in that range. So fairly quick, and we're excited about that. We are looking for either an earmark or some other assistance from the federal government, and acquiring some matching funds to help make that happen. Housing. We are doing our housing element, which, as Elaine can tell you, is a lot of fun right now. It's a good time. And so we expect that our housing element will say that we need 205 new units by 2029 in unincorporated Inyo County, so not including the city of Bishop. So we're working on a variety of fronts in order to try to make that happen. First is identifying land. We identified every county-owned parcel that we have, which is not a lot of them, and some of them are in places like Deep Springs or places where we're clearly not going to be building a housing development. But we're looking at the low-hanging fruit and what places could possibly be developed as housing. One place to put on y'all's radar is the county-owned parcel at the end of J Street. I think it could be controversial, but I think it could also be a place that already has a lot of services, has a road, has brand new water and sewer, everything put right there. So I would definitely be looking forward to the city's input on that. We also identified priority DWP parcels that we could ask for release in order for development for housing. Those were all done in coordination with City of Bishop Planning, and I believe you've already received those maps, but we can get you a map if you don't have it in the areas that are around the City of Bishop. Couple of other things we're looking at is assistance with the Silver Peaks development. The county has put in funding in order to reserve some of those units, but also to assist the development getting off the ground. We have created a rehabilitation assistance program. So looking at houses that are currently unoccupied, that could be rehabilitated and then rented out. So we have a revolving loan fund that we use some general fund money and some of the COVID relief money into this fund. So folks can apply for this money, rehabilitate their house, rent it out, and then pay it back. And then ideally that will be a revolving loan fund that can continue on forever. We have a down payment assistance program that we've been running for a while. Mammoth Licks Housing is the one who administers this. We recently have about $200,000 that we got repaid out of that. So we have a total fund of about $400,000 that can be used for down payment assistance throughout the county. And something else that I think is really exciting that I think we should do in conjunction with the city of Bishop and perhaps the whole Eastern Sierra, to figure out this. And that's ADU assistance. That's accessory dwelling units, the granny units, mother-in-law unit, whatever you want to call it. So we're looking at creating pre-approved plans. So architectural designs that are pre-approved so that somebody wanted to create an ADU, and now you have the legal right to create 2 ADUs on most parcels. And then it saves a lot of time and money if you have something that's already approved and you skip a whole month or 2 with planning and a lot of expense with an architect trying to figure that out. On the short-term rental front, which relates to housing, we're going to discuss it again because we just can't get enough of it. So we're going to reopen the process because particularly in Lone Pine, the amount of people applying for short-term rental permits and using short-term rental permits has really put a pinch on the housing in that area. So there are other areas of the county where it clearly is not an impediment. You know, I think of Tacopa, you know, no one's complaining about what happens in Tacopa. So what we're looking at is creating zones and perhaps putting some moratoriums on parts of the county where housing is being impacted by the short-term rentals. Just for a refresher for everyone, we did ban non-hosted short-term rentals a few years ago. So there's really only a handful of those that exist in the county that were grandfathered in from when it was allowed. But even there are some loopholes that people find their ways through. And we're finding that particularly in Lone Pine, it's having a pretty critical impact on housing. I want to touch on TOT for a minute. Apologize if this is a rather lengthy report, but there was some big stuff that we've done. But the Treasurer Tax Collector, Alicia McMurtry, has initiated a review of our TOT status. TOT is the bed tax that folks pay when they stay at hotels or short-term rentals. And it's currently at 12%. And all of the areas surrounding us are higher than that. So it would take a vote of the people in order to go to 14%. Another issue is that campgrounds and motorhome parks currently are not subject to the TOT tax. So it's an open question as to whether that is something that makes sense. Most other jurisdictions in California, TOT is for anyone who is transiently occupying someplace, which includes campgrounds and people driving around with their motorhomes. And then Inyo County does something that no one else does in the state of California is we have an administration fee that basically we give 4% of the 12% back to the hotel who is collecting the tax. No one's quite sure of how that happened, but so we're looking to do away with that. And what's that? Yes. Yes, and it's complicated, but because we have the administration fee, we cannot use the tracking devices to find out who is doing a short-term rental and who is not doing a short-term rental through Airbnb or VRBO or any of those organizations. So it would simplify the whole Airbnb compliance thing if we got rid of that 4%.
Just a question, Jeff. If you got rid of the 4%, doesn't have to go to the voters. That's more of an in-house.
Yeah, that's a
So it'd be like-
ordinance. So we can
be
do
like
that.
4% TOT raise.
No, it's 4% of the 12%.
Well, if you're only making 8%, then it'd be a 4% raise.
Yeah, math, Stephen.
Oh, you're talking,
So it's,
0.5%
yeah, it's like a 0.5%.
4%
of the 12%.
4% of the
Whatever,
12%.
I
So here's how to think about it. So, okay, so you got $100 hotel bill, 12%, that's $12 tax. You give 4% of the $12,
48 cents.
48 cents. I knew someone knew how to do math here. Thank you. Where was I? Oh, and the other thing that's really exciting that again, Jim and Karen heard all about this and they could report about it from ESCOG, but it's the community economic development work that we've been doing. So there's the SURF right now. So this is a new acronym that everybody should learn. SURF is Community Economic Resiliency Fund. This was in last year's budget through the state of California, but they broke California into regions. There are 13 regions. We are the Eastern Sierra region, which confusingly includes West Side counties on the east side. So it's Inyamono, Alpine, and then like Tuolumne, Mariposa.
13 counties. Right?
Pardon me?
13 counties.
There's no, there's 13 regions.
Oh,
In our county, in our region, there's Inyamono, Alpine, and I think 5 on the west side, something like that. So anyways, each region gets $5 million for the planning grant. And then there is up to, help me out, I think $60 million per region for implementation of projects for community economic resilience. It's a huge opportunity. So we're trying to bifurcate the east side and the west side a little bit because there are some areas that we have similar economic concerns and a lot of places where we're distinct. So we're trying to basically create a sub plan within our plan and then get projects that are east side centric and will really benefit our community. And it's perfect timing to go with the Small Business Development Center that should be up and running at the end of this year. Sierra Business Council is looking to administer the SURF, Community Economic Resilience Fund plan money. And a lot of the job training that's going on at the job spot, the business development that's going at the Small Business Development Center is all going to tie in perfectly with this. And we could get projects where there can be funding for these businesses. That's my report. Yes.
2 questions. One, the revolving house fund for rehabilitating houses, does that count towards RENA requirements? Do you know? I'm looking into that.
That's a very good question.
Now there's a requirement that in a housing unit we for the number of units that would be considered for rehabilitated. I think that HC is a bit on the fence as to whether or not that ratio of
Okay. And then my other question is, if we hit the 10,000 employments, then we get $1 million from the FAA. What is the current operating budget that the county and the whole partners are spending on the airport? How does that compare to the $1 million a year? Do you know?
So I think you need to separate out two things. So there's what the $1 million is for the physical operations of the airport. And I don't have those numbers off the top of my head. I can get that to you, but it's an incremental increase above what we were already doing as a general aviation airport. And so this $1 million will more than cover the incremental increase. So that's a good thing. And Inyo County, and I asked this number the other day, I don't have the exact figure on me, but multiples of millions of dollars is what Inyo County has put in matching funds over the last 6 years for the improvement of the airport in order to get it up to 139 compliance in order to take commercial air flights. We will continue to do improvements. And so that $1 million will pay for part of those matching funds in order to do that. As far as the subsidy discussion, that's a longer discussion that we're all going to have at some point.
I had a question. I know it's tomorrow's Bishop meeting is at 1. Are they planning to have some later evening ones about the TOT? Only Bishop meeting scheduled is like from 1 to 3. It's either tomorrow or.
They had one. So they did have one that was, I will say, poorly. So this is Treasure Tracks Collectors doing all of this. So I'm hanging a little bit of telephone here. So they had one that was not so well televised. I believe a couple of you were there. Maybe Jose was there. Yeah. And I think that may be it for Bishop. But here's the thing is we got a breakdown of where that tax is collected. And 98% of it's collected in the 5th district. So in a lot of ways, so it absolutely has zero impact on City of Bishop, hotels, short-term rentals within the City of Bishop. You guys have your separate tax.
And that's what I've been telling people when they ask me. People were just saying, is there a later meeting for Bishop? So the answer to that is probably not. Probably
not, but I can go ask if there's demand.
I don't know that the people who've talked to me is actually qualifies as demand. It's not that great of a number, but I'll just send people to the Big Pine one if they're still interested, because I know that's later in the evening.
I think that's good. And I do regret that the one evening one we had was super late notice. Not many people heard about it.
The other quick thing I was hoping you could pass along is a lot of the things that the Small Business Center has been doing are also in the daytime. And so like the one at the college the other day was like 4 to 5.
Okay.
And the other one was that we had down here was also in the middle of the day, like 4 to 5. It might be nice to start thinking of having them in the evening time. That way, if there are current business owners who might not be able to come during the daytime, they would be more free to come in the evening.
Okay, I will pass it along.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Why not, Jeff?
Sure.
Let's keep having fun. I was down at the Concert Rocks last Saturday, and apparently I was like supervisor 5.5 down there because I had quite a few people hit me up who wanted to discuss. And you brought up the housing component. It was a huge part of the talks I was having with people. And I'm glad that you recognize that the county recognizes short-term rentals, because that was the one that kind of stuck out and everyone that hit me up was beat on that. But you brought up a point right there, and I don't know if is it a viable solution? Revolving loan through the county for rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple discussions that came up out of these little discussions I was having. Would it be, has the county ever discussed doing something similar? Say Stephen has a house there that's pretty dilapidated, beat down.
That's my yard.
Well,
The
yeah,
inside is nice. It's just the yard, Jim.
I gotta wait.
Use Karen. Oh, use my house, use my house.
Just put up a big fence. It looks great. That's how I do it. But would there be, has there been any discussion? And it's something that just kind of hit me when I was through these discussions. Jeff Griffith's terrible house. He tears it down. The county helps him fund putting up a unit with 4 apartment buildings to create housing. You know, you can't build out. We know that is a problem. It's a process that takes years. But that was a discussion that people were asking me about. Is that possible? I said, I don't know what your house, what your
Zoning.
zoning is.
Right.
But I don't see why that wouldn't be, you know, take the same property that's worth this, build up, create 4 housing units, bam, move on.
So I think, actually a bullet point that I didn't talk about under housing was another of the strategies that we're going to use is technical assistance for developers. And that is both easing people through the planning process and getting that done as quickly as possible, but more importantly, looking towards helping them apply for grants or go through the affordable housing process, because there is a lot of funds out there for developer tax credits and there's a lot of affordable housing money out there that can be accessed by private developers, and it can be through simple things such as 4-unit type developments. And so the county is developing a team to like be there and assist folks with that. So whether that would count for the rehabilitation revolving loan, I don't know. But like if you're going to tear down a house and put up 4 units, then like I think it's absolutely worth looking at affordable housing.
With the investment at the county level, you make, pick a number, 2.5% on that money. Increase the property value. So there's an increase there. You're making money on the money and you're solving your housing problem kind of all in one time. Is the return on investment there to actually make changes?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Worth talking about.
And just to be clear, all of those funds, all of those programs are available to people in the city of Bishop as well, right? Or is it just county?
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Okay,
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
good to know which ones are. Yeah, publicize it to everybody as well.
Yep. I'll get with Elaine and we'll figure it out.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Great information. All right, moving on to department reports. Updates on department activities will be given by department heads and or their staff. Our first department report is from Joe Dell.
And or staff.
That's what it says. Yeah.
Why do I keep coming? Oh, lack of staff. Good evening, Mayor, Council. You'll see tonight we pulled the policies and procedures manual from the consent. There was enough questions in it, and the district also decided to push it till next month. So one of the significant hurdles I'm trying to figure out is how to get it passed through the council, through the fire district board, through the 2 separate legal councils and the Firefighters Association. So I think we're going to try and take a different route on that. It'll probably delay the process some, but you can look forward to those in the future as we push forward. So the other thing, we continue to run EMS calls, keeping our finger in the dike there as it comes through. So we're still up about 10 a month with about 5 transports. And then moving forward, we still haven't heard back from Simons on the agreement that's on their table right now. We're waiting for. And just getting ready for fireworks. Fireworks show in the park is exciting. It's coming up pretty quick, and be ready for staffing for for both the show standby and then the multiple fires. We'll probably get that night as it is. So, any questions?
None from me. Thank you. All right, Police Chief Richard Standridge.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. How's everyone tonight? So just a few quick things I'd like to cover. Our new employee, Oscar, started today. I was going to bring him here tonight and introduce him, but wasn't quite sure what, we were expecting this evening. So he's going to be at the next council meeting, a little more settled in, a little more ready to go. The plan right now is to get him to the academy 1st of August, and he'll be attending the Riverside Police Academy. Part of our switch to that from Golden West is quite a bit of cost savings and a little more efficiency. So we're going to kind of step outside of the box a little bit and try something new. Also, our PST, I'll go ahead and make the announcement, is Elena Dondero. I was lucky enough to hire her away from the Paiute tribe in the position she was doing over there. So she's going to take over our police services technician role. And part of the hiring process with her and my conversations, we're going to look to expand to some different programs for that position. And in talking with city administrator, maybe look at changing some job descriptions as we move a little bit forward, redefine the PST position. And then like we talked about in some of our subsequent meetings, maybe start looking at moving towards that code enforcement component as well. So that's all ongoing. And I also welcome council to stop by. Our new flooring is in, so the paint flooring are done. Furniture has started trickling in. So within the next 2 to 3 weeks, that should all be completed. So the interior facelift should be done. Then we'll start getting some stuff back up on the walls house and making things look cozy again for those that are coming in. Our fingerprints and things like that are picking up in the summertime with job positions being hired and things like that. So we want to get everything back appealing to the public. Let them feel a little more welcome when they come in the door. Starting tomorrow, our shed that's become dilapidated out in the back parking lot of the police department is being painted by some of our community service folks. I want to give a public thank you to Jeff Thompson and his crew over at Inyo County Probation who are working with us to make that happen. Huge cost savings there with utilizing some of that community service labor. So we're getting away with the cost of just materials. So I've also been in, thanks to Elaine for putting me in contact with the mural group. We're taking a look at redoing the Richard Perkins mural that's on the side of the police department. And if we can't get that one redone, then we're going to look at maybe putting up a new mural to honor Richard Perkins there on the side of the building. So there's some things moving in that direction also. Last Friday, had a very good meeting with Inyo County Department of Mental Health and some of our other partners. It's been a huge issue with staffing and some of our shortcomings, both in facilities to get our folks who need mental health services to. Northern Inyo was at the table, mental health from Inyo was at the table, our law enforcement partners. So just to let council know, everybody is working together on this problem. It's not one individual agency's problem, it's our problem. And so we're going to work together to see what each one of us can bring to the table. The big component I like is it's not just my idea, but I kind of brought it back to the table. It's our partners' ideas to start getting our own instructors from various agencies here so we can start doing our own training here and not have to send everyone out all the time. So that's taken a little bit longer to put together than I had liked, but nonetheless, it is moving forward. So I think any progress is better than no progress. So we're just going to keep kind of plugging away until we can make that happen. There's some funds available. So I think everyone's on board with doing some cost sharing there. And that's all I have. And I'm sure council has a couple questions for me. So please. Yes, sir.
I do have a question.
Go for it. I'm ready.
Does the Bishop Paiute Tribe Law Enforcement group meet this month or next month? The next quarterly meeting?
It's this week. Let me send it to you. I
Please
thought
do.
you'd already got it, but I'll send it to you.
Please, thank you.
I will do. It's Wednesday.
This Wednesday?
Yeah, I won't be there, but I'll send you the invite here shortly.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Council, thank you much.
Thank you for the update.
Nothing?
Done a great job.
I have housing questions, but no.
Oh, no, I'm staying now. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Community Services Manager Dan McElroy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the public that are here. Just a very quick update from Community Services. Tonight, for our grants, our Prop 68 per capita, which is hopefully going to pay for our rear playground replacement. We're in the final works on that. We have signs installed. Everything else is ready to go. We're just waiting to hear from the state for a final inspection. So we should be, with hopefully next couple of months, receiving those funds back from the state of California. We also had a great meeting on Thursday with, thank you for Mr. Deshawn for showing up, and all of our grant staff, which includes Brittany, Waylon, and Carrie, and myself, with the state of California for the Prop 68 Rural and Tourism. So that project would encompass the renovation of the pool slide, the front playground, as well as a climbing wall, and then looking at creating kind of a community center or community buildings located within the pool. That was a great meeting. It was amazing that they even came here. So that kind of puts us, hopefully, we can get over the line with that as well. And like I mentioned before, as they're looking around probably end of July to let us know when that will be awarded. But she said, basically, don't hold your breath and look more towards August right now. So, but when those come in, and I will definitely keep council and public updated on those items when they do come in. At the park, we hosted our annual swim invitational at the Bishop Park Pool. So that was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And as of tomorrow, the Bishop Park Pool will be open for public swim. Our lessons are shaping up and they are going to fill very quickly. So we only have a couple places left for our swim lessons. In programs, summer camps kicked off today, so to speak, with our sports camps. And we'll basically have 8 summer camps over the next couple of months throughout the summer. In staffing, we hired 2 new summer park helpers, as well as we hired a new full-time lead worker at the park. And just looking forward, we're looking forward to the 4th of July and working with Joe Dell and the PD and everyone else that's involved, the Bishop Chamber, to make that event go. And then, of course, right after that, we'll be heading into Little League All-Stars. And this year, we're hoping to have all 3 All-Stars, which are the majors, minors, and juniors. So kind of a large group for us. And that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions or comments.
Yeah, quick question. Yeah, I saw the park pool over the weekend. Looked like a billion people there. How'd the expansion, is it getting good feedback?
Yes, totally. So the one little corner, it just kind of inhibits people from being able to walk around that corner. So it just kind of, where we pulled it out towards, kind of towards the park shop there. It's just that one little corner. That's the only thing that I saw. So. I know Joe enjoyed it. He was in the shade, just chilling out.
Yeah, I walked through it and
outside the fence. He wasn't allowed in.
I walked through it and it looked good. And I was just wondering how it worked out actually in use. So,
and that front area where we expanded the fence so you can open and close it for certain events and everything, that was a huge hit because it creates so much shade underneath the wisteria in the front. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's nice.
And we'll be there scooping out ice cream on the floor.
You guys, that's going to be so great.
Get my email.
Working out.
Yes, I did. I did respond to you. Check yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Associate Planner, Economic Development Coordinator, Elaine Kabala.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. 3 updates for you this evening. First, about a week ago, maybe almost 2 weeks ago, staff completed step 5 in the process for considering the applications of the 3 cannabis retailers who applied for a license within the city of Bishop. So thank you to Mr. Deshawn, Mr. Standridge for their assistance in that interview process. And we'll look forward to coming back to the council with our recommended 2 retailers soon. Secondly, I wanted to remind the council that the environmental impact report for the specific plan and mixed use overlay is currently out for public review. It's a required 45-day public review period and it will close on July 11th. And then finally, I wish to let your council know that Visionary Home Builders, who is the property owner for the Silver Peaks property and the developer for that affordable housing project, is going to be applying for the Housing and Community Development Super Notice of Funding Availability, which is due later in June. That housing project is approximately $35 to $40 million. And so this funding coming from the state of California to subsidize affordable housing and line up that tax credit is going to be essential for the implementation of that project. And so staff has been working with Visionary to make sure that they have all the entitlement documentation they need from the city to submit. It concludes my presentation for this evening. I'm pleased to take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions?
Oh, that's awesome.
I just had one quick question. The local business loans that we had talked about doing, where are we in that process?
In conversation with Mr. Deshawn, I think that I would prefer to wait until a full-time planner is in place so we have the appropriate capacity to implement that project.
Okay.
But I did have a conversation with Housing and Community Development about that today, and they're on track with that program and continuing to work with us. They're comfortable with that timeline.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Elaine. All right, last up, we have the City Administrator and Public Works Director, Destin Deshawn.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. So a number of things to update you on. I'll try to pare it down so it doesn't take so long. So I'm in the process of reached out to all of our, I would call local partners, the tribe, the hospital, the county, Forest Service, a number of them to sit down in a room and talk about housing in a more serious fashion, and not just each of us individually, but sit down and say, who has land, who has finances? How can we get something completed in a reasonable amount of time? Because we have an issue that needs to be solved sooner than later. And I think we have enough between us all. And then also start talking about developers and maybe potential developers that might find a project like that. But so far, I've got a response from almost everybody. And as usual, when you have that many people, putting together a date and a time isn't the easiest thing to do. So that's in the works right now. Just a quick update on street lights and West Pine Street. The David Pratt, who's the head of electrical for DWP, will be back. He's on like a 3-week vacation. So he emailed me back and said we'll have a discussion when he gets back. Let's see. I'm working with the Inyo Mono Regional Water Management Group on a grant for the wastewater treatment plant and our disbursement of effluent water, and trying to revamp that grant. We've already applied, but now we're trying to, in a sense, I don't want to say downscale, but yes, downscaling to a different method of irrigation, less costly. So that I think we have an excellent opportunity to gain funds through that. We opened and closed the Public Works Director position applications. We received 4. So now I'll be reaching out to each of you to try to find a good time to interview in the very near future. It'd be nice to get that done soon. A biggie is that we issued encroachment permits to Frontier for the fiber upgrade. It's to start in July. And I actually ran into a good friend of mine who owns West Tech on the other side, and he approached me this weekend. I saw him and said, hey, I'm going to be working up there starting in July. So everything's falling together. It's going to happen. Met again with Adam Perez at LADWP, had a really good meeting with him on some of our projects and land as well, and getting a letter of support. We have an ATP application for the extension of Sierra Street bike path all the way over to the school to tie it into the school path. So it would involve concrete, the entire path, a bridge over Bishop Creek, a number of things. And then we, in conjunction with Caltrans's project to create sidewalk from out there all the way to town. So we would have a safe way for our children to get from that northwest part of Bishop into town on a bike path all the way to school. Great project. We did very well last time. We just barely missed out. It's a very competitive grant. So I think with a few additions that we learned that we need to add, we should have a decent chance to get one this time.
ATP stands for what? for the people who are listening, ATP.
Active Transportation
Thank you,
Program.
Steve.
There you go.
Yep. It's a super competitive grant and it's interesting, but the metropolitan cities get about 90% right off the top. So small urban areas fight for the other 10%. What else do we have here? And I just want to recognize the Public Works crew for the parade, the detour, and all the work they did. It went off great as always. A lot of work. They started at 4 a.m, and so they deserve some recognition when it goes off well. The senior planner job has been advertised, started last week. It's out, so hopefully we get a fair amount of interest as we did the last time. And lastly, I guess, is the high school rodeo this year. So as we can see, town is busy again. It kind of went right started 2 weeks ago, and it is not the high school rodeo, but through meal days and our pride event, and then now into this, and town's just been great. Good to see. That's all I have, unless you have any questions of me.
I'm busy.
I have a question. Do you want to talk about the parking request on Church
Oh,
Street now
yes.
or later?
No, I'm sorry. I
That's
apologize.
okay.
I had it on
No.
my list. So just kind of like council know, I remember back in, some of you, maybe Jim, 2014, we went through the whole public process of assigning parking limits and all that to our parking lots on Main Street, off of Main Street and Warren Street. So with Joseph's being closed for a number of years, and now it's reopened as Bishop Beverage Center, we're having a few issues with parking over there. The movie theater, and just by nature, no one's really enforced or needed to enforce the parking over there. So right now, the owners there are requesting like 4 spots to have a 30-minute time limit on them, 15 to 30 minutes, and bring the rest of it all to 3-hour parking. I think, and obviously we can't make that decision tonight, but staff would like to bring you back a request, and then we would need to have a public hearing again and modify the ordinance to adjust for that parking change over there. But I feel like it's necessary. I think the police chief didn't get a chance to speak to it, but there was a lot of parking issues over this last weekend that came of the issues with time parking.
Something else to look at, it's on the side of the street facing the liquor store, it's a 1-hour limit. And on the other side, it's a 3-hour limit. So people may be confused, okay, it's 3 hours in general or 1 hour in general. So we may need to make that even, having probably 4 spots with a 15 or 30-minute limit, and the rest either a 1 hour or 3-hour limit. So something to look into it.
Yeah, definitely. We'd like to look into it and, reach out, as we would the 300-foot radius with all the business owners and get their input. That was the 1-hour parking was when we did it, Joseph's was still there. And that was the amount of time that they felt they needed. So I think he's being very reasonable. He's not asked for the whole side to be changed. He just wants 3 or 4 spots.
And the changing the hours too, because right now the time limit, it's from 8 to 6 p.m., I believe, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. But most of the customers going to buy liquor do it after 4 p.m. And they are open till 9 or 10 p.m. So he also requested that the time limit will be changed to cover those after 6 p.m. hours. So maybe even 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. be the limit, which coincides with the time the movie theater it's open, and sometimes people will go for a dinner and a movie and park and block that whole section of Church Street from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., affecting that particular business. So there are a few things to consider.
I think it's a reasonable request. We just need to go through our process.
Thank you, Destin.
Thank you.
Yeah, Destin, that's it may be something we need to keep an eye on in the future for kind of oversight, because I didn't even think about that when all this has happened. As we move new businesses or change the dynamic of an area, we need to probably put that on a list somewhere, a checklist of the parking, so it doesn't become a problem later.
Yeah.
Dollar store goes in. Did we look at parking near there to see what the parameters are, if it impacts that? And it's a problem. I dealt with it when I worked at the police department. It's a simple fix. So,
Very.
I thought we were going to have a comprehensive discussion about that and how it pertains to the downtown specific plan at some point.
That's,
yeah, I think it's kind of going to have to be a morphing as town changes. We have to keep an eye on that component.
that this specific plan will definitely change things a lot, the dynamics. And it's, again, there's a lot of parking. It's just,
Yeah.
we need parking closer for in and out traffic. I understand that.
Or let people know where it is.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. Thanks for bringing that up, Jose. Moving on to the consent calendar. Notice to the public, all matters under the consent calendar are considered routine by the city and will be acted on by one motion. And we are pulling number 3, the Bishop Fire Policy and Procedures. Would anyone like to make a motion? Yes, comment.
Yes, I'd like to suggest that the Community Services Administrative Assistant job description, it actually says job description because it does not at the top. City of Bishop, Community Services Administrative Assistant, definition of what? Just a job description.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar with Councilmember Garcia's modifications.
I'll second that.
Any public comment? Okay, seeing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Hovey,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Item A, resolution, Proposition 4. Council consideration to adopt a resolution establishing the appropriations limit pursuant to Article 13B of the California Constitution. Proposition 4, Finance.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members. In November 1979, the voters of state of California approved Proposition 4, commonly known as GAIN Initiative. The proposition created Article 13B of the state constitution, placing limits on the amount of revenue that can be spent by the state and local governments. The appropriations limit is adjusted annually on the basis of population and per capita income change factors. These factors are received each year from the California Department of Finance. Government Code 79100 requires the governing body of each local jurisdiction to establish a resolution, its appropriation limit for the fiscal year. Attached for the council review is the proposed resolution establishing the appropriations limit for the city of Bishop for fiscal year 22-23. The appropriations limit of the city of Bishop for fiscal year 22-23 is $10,923,300. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that. $10,923,350. Okay. Economic impacts. There are no significant economic impacts. Legal review. City Attorney Pucci has reviewed this item and finds that the recommended action complies with the law, and our recommendation is to review the proposed resolution and consider action to adopt by title only.
Thank you. And this is something we do every year.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
standard. Yeah.
It's exciting stuff.
Anyone have any questions?
I mean, I don't think we're at any risk of hitting up against that limit, right?
No.
Any questions from the public? Okay. What do you want?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the above thing by title only.
Do we need
Resolution.
to be a little more specific, Dean?
I think that the city clerk can read in the title.
The review says, yeah, review the proposed resolution.
I'll
consider
second it.
action.
Call for a vote?
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, establishing the appropriations limit pursuant to Article 13B of the California Constitution, Proposition 4. Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Mohovi,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item B, reserve policy and resolution. Council consideration to approve the proposed reserve policy and adopt the proposed resolution establishing a reserve policy for the city of Bishop. Administration.
Good evening again. So we're asking the city council to establish a reserve policy to both protect against economic uncertainty and provide funding for projects and one-time expenses. Staff is requesting that the city council establish a reserve for economic uncertainty, or an REU, to minimize the impact to city services in the event of a long-term revenue shortfall or an economic downturn. Also a lengthy negative impact, earthquake, something like that, that would really turn down the ability to have people coming into our town to generate revenue. The funding target is 15% of the general fund revenues, or 1.572 million based on the 22-23 operating budget. The REU will have a current balance of 1.572 million and will not require additional funds allocated during the budget process. As general fund revenue is less than in prior years, all the interest revenue on these funds are retained in the REU. So it will continue to grow, hopefully, over time. The second part of this is the operating reserve of the OR. It is engaged to weather short-term economic impacts or to take advantage of unanticipated funding needs, such as grant opportunities, response to damaged facilities, and anticipated short-term declines in revenue or new state and federal costs. The funding target is 10% of the general fund revenues, or roughly just a little bit over $1 million. The funding target is, the current balance of this reserve component is 1.048 million, or 100% of the policy. While no additional funds are recommended for the fiscal year 22-23 operational budget, the city remains committed to this component of the reserve policy and will provide additional funding as excess revenues or savings permit. So essentially that one will cover a grant that may come up that has a match that we had not anticipated. We would be able to draw from that, or something as simple as HVAC unit going out that was not listed in our budget. It also, with this funding policy, we're also creating, or our reserve policy, a contingency in there that we'll put in our budget every year of $100,000. So that would cover even the more smaller costs, non-budgeted items. But again, those items are one-time costs. And then once that, they'll no longer, once that year starts and we've used them, there'll be no other added on, hopefully. Unless some big dire emergency came, then we'd be coming to council. But the idea is to keep that, our fiscal responsibilities covered, and have that general fund budget, because if we don't create a budget or a reserve policy like this, in the future years, someone may come and say, oh, look, we got $3 million here we didn't know about, let's spend it. I hope this is protecting the future for the city, for all of us and our employees. City Attorney Pucci has reviewed and finds that the recommended action complies with the law. So at this time, staff recommends that the city council approve the proposed reserve policy and adopt the proposed resolution establishing the city's reserve policy by title only. And I should add that each year this will be brought back to council and the numbers could be changed. It could go higher. I would hope that we would never go lower, but if revenues are looking better, then we would increase that accordingly.
Thank you. I just feel like, as we've had different city administrators, everyone has a different approach. So this gives some guidance, since I'm not, a municipal finance guru. You kind of look at the staff for direction, but it's nice to have some policies that they have to follow as well. So I really appreciate you and Jenny putting the time and effort into doing this.
Yeah. So I want to thank Jenny a lot for this. Is mostly somehow she did the work and put my name on it.
That's the best.
She did a great job with it. But at the end of the day, like through COVID and all these things, we can have a little bit of more sureties that we not going to be having to cut staff or do things like that. We can survive. And again, it's that going to cover 25% of our operating and maintenance costs for a year, right? Or for during the year, 25% of it.
And if we do dip into it, then we just put it back the following budget year, and
Correct.
so it's not a fixed, this is free money, basically.
Yeah, it's just protecting that amount of money that always have to somehow, at the beginning of the budget year, every year, we need to figure out how to get it back to that number if we had to tap into it.
Okay. I'm kind of like Karen, or Mayor Schwartz, excuse me, that, yeah, we've talked about this.
Steven's up, you gotta be all official this year.
Yeah, we've talked about this year after year. We come up with a number that seems to be great for 2 weeks, and then we forget about that number. And so I like that it's in writing, it's part of a policy, and we can move forward now, and we know it's there. So well done.
My one question is, well, I have two questions actually. Are we comfortable with this amount, that this would, if something catastrophic were to happen, that we'd be able to keep operating the city for at least like for long enough that, like, if at the beginning of COVID, if it had, would this have gotten us through what we needed?
Yeah, and I think this doubles up with our next item in our PAR stuff. The city, this will keep us, I feel, because obviously in some kind of natural disaster or COVID comes along, services go way down. We just need to do the essential services. So that will cover us through essential services for probably at least 6 months at least.
And then my other question has to do with volatility. Have you, was there, so this number, the 15% and the 10%, it's of the yearly budget. Is there any reason why we're doing that as opposed to the average of the last 5 years budget?
You know what, I probably thought about that a little bit, but this is probably, this year's budget is higher than the last, and services and employees, nothing's getting cheaper. So I tended to, it was a little more conservative to go with the number that was this year versus 5 years ago, what our budget was. Trying to, responsibly put away as much as we can. I wish we could do double that right now. It just make us much more secure.
Preston, and this target limit, it's minimum, right? Let's say if our surplus is such that we can have 20% instead of 15 and 20% instead of 10%, there is nothing within the policy that will prevent us from having a better fund.
Absolutely, and that's kind of in those guidelines in the back. We talk about if we have additional funds at the end of the year, or say unanticipated revenues, that we could add those to it and increase it, as well as, or put it into our PARS account, either way. Okay. Yeah, we'd like to capture those the funds that were remaining that are maybe unspent, and go ahead and put them into that reserve. And the next year, maybe we could raise that number.
Okay, thank you.
Last question, Destiny. This is hidden in the lake. This is housed in.
Yes, it'll be housed in the LAIF account so that we can access it pretty quickly if we need to. It's more liquid there.
Any questions from the public? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Not me.
I would like to make a motion to approve the proposed reserve policy and adopt the proposed resolution establishing the city's reserve policy by title only.
I'll second that.
Okay, call for a vote.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, establishing the city's reserve policy. Councilmember Kong.
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia.
Yes.
Councilmember Mahui.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis.
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Council.
All right, moving on to item D, memorandums of understand. Oh, I crossed that off by accident. The pension funding policy and investment strategy for PARS 115 Trust. Back to you, Dustin.
All right. So Back on May 9th, the city council approved to establish a pension 115 trust with PARS. The next step in this process is to provide council with options on a funding policy with a recommendation from administration to fund that trust. PARS provides 5 different investment strategies. The number 1 being the most conservative to number 5 being the most aggressive strategy involved. Each option, either an active or passive approach, can be taken. The active approach allows for actively buying and selling assets in the hope of making profits and outperforming a benchmark. A passive approach is a long-term strategy in which investors buy and hold a diversified mix of assets to match, not beat the market. So, and I would like to add that currently the OPEB trust that we have with PERS, that we are going to be transferring the funds over to our OPEB trust with PARS, which surprisingly, it was in the most aggressive accounts that there were. I was very surprised to find that out. And it also worked out very well for the city over the last 10 years. The market's done well. So it's been a big help to that account. At this time, there's no immediate economic impacts, but investing in this pension will create financial stability for the city for years to come. The fiscal impacts of the pension funding policy is 1.5 million of reserves transferred to the pension 115 trust funds, and an increase of approximately $30,775 of normal pension costs programmed into the fiscal year 22-23 budget. The fiscal impact of the OPEB funding policy is the approximate balance, and this is approximate again of 3.5 million from our PERS trust over to the PARS trust. We're just simply transferring it. And so, and then the number that we're talking about in the $30,000 of additional funding would be the money that is saved with PERS by making single yearly payments versus monthly payments. So Jenny was very quick to grab that money. She did a great job and said, if we're going to save that, let's add that to this as well. So it makes all the sense in the world to do it. There are no budget impacts because the 1.5 million will be drawn from our reserves. This is additional to the 2.5 that we were talking about in the last policy. Staff recommends City Council approve the funding policy for our OPEB account as an active balanced investment strategy, and with the funding policy for our pension account at active moderate investment strategy. Providing an active approach will potentially allow for the investment earnings to outperform the benchmarks, therefore reducing the amount needed to be inputted into the trust. And again, tonight, before you is the question where do we want to put our money, and if we want to be active, passive, or aggressive, or conservative. And also I will add that in talking with PARS, it's different than PERS. We can actually literally almost, every week is an exaggeration, but monthly, the market, you start seeing the market coming around. You can move your money around with them with a simple phone call and say, council approval, we can say we want to go up aggressive to see the market coming back, or vice versa. And right now we picked the more middle stance, not knowing where things are going, if a recession could possibly be coming. And then in November, if things look like it's turning around, then we can go ahead and move that money up a little bit more aggressively.
Makes all the sense in the world to me. Thank you. I don't have any questions about it. We had the presentation and it looks great. Yeah.
I guess my one question is, how did we arrive at these numbers? The 1.5 million in reserve. I mean, we know we have 3.5 already in the OPEB trust, and so we're transferring that. And then is the 1.5 because we get a break in the administration fees or something?
Correct. If we get to that $5 million mark, the fees go down. I don't remember exactly the amount, but the more money you have in, the less fees you paid. So the $5 million is the first benchmark for reduced fees. So we were shooting to try to get to that mark. And again, it could be, it depends. We've heard different numbers on our OPEB trust right now. Actually, I don't want to get everybody excited, but we've heard as high as 4.5 million is there. So PERS is like a full year behind. Wow. Telling you where you are. So But we still would, no matter what, we've figured out where 1.5 million within the budget can come from to fund that, to get that, at least that. And I would suggest that or recommend that we try to maintain that amount of money. Because then again, this, as we said before, the PARS money can be taken out when we have bad times to cover healthcare costs and pension costs.
And so for example, during COVID, we could have tapped into that to pay for healthcare costs for the city employees, and then we could have been operating for longer. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
I think it makes sense. When looking at, I think it also makes sense to have it in the balanced, like the second most aggressive one, because if you recall all of those plots that we were seeing of when our big CalPERS bills were due, when they come due, the bump is in about 10 to 11 years. And so since it's 10 years down the line, I'd be comfortable having it relatively aggressive now, and then in a few years, lowering it back if need be. That's kind of my take on it.
So I am, I believe in being super aggressive when I play sports. I'm much more of a stick my money under a mattress kind of a girl when it comes to money. Maybe I was a single mom for too many years. I guess what I want to know is what made you guys decide active balance for the one and active moderate for the other?
So, yeah, when we discussed this with the investment folks there at PARS, so you're absolutely good question. There's two different strategies going on here. Healthcare is more of a long-term plan that you're looking at down the road. It's not due right now. It's covering retiree health, it's doing things like that. So being more aggressive makes sense because you're going to have the ups and downs, but if you look at over time, that market, it always ends up being up. It's the old saying, the only ones that get hurt on a roller coaster are the people who jump off. And so if you stay that course on the long term, you end up ahead. The pension, depending on where PERS goes, and they call up and you have to make this giant payment, as Stephen alluded to, in 10 years. We wanted that money to be, we know it's not going to lose or have an up and a down, and it's going to stay more steady. It's not going to go up as much, but it'll stay steadily. Less chances of going downhill.
Thank you. So Destin, I don't see the total figure, but do we currently have in our reserves enough funds to cover the 15 and 10% for those two policies and the $1.5 million that will be transferred to this trust? Do we have all of that in our reserve?
Currently, yes, we do. And it'll leave about, Jenny, remind me, about a 1.5 million left in the reserves that's not dedicated to either of these. I think if I remember correctly, it's right around that number, because I was thinking it was getting kind of low that, having just that as, I don't want to say liquid, but money in our reserves, but really all this is in our reserves. It's same thing. It's just a little more secure where it is now. Yeah. So we will not, we have the money to do it. The money will come equally from water, sewer, general fund. It'll come from the departments so that water and sewer funds will also be helping pay this only for their people. So everything is broken down by an employee, how much that their liability is. So that liability that comes from water and sewer for those employees will take from the water and sewer accounts.
Okay.
Not just our general fund.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, from last month's investment portfolio, there's definitely enough money there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the public? Who would like to make a motion? I will make a motion for the city council to approve the funding policy for our OPEB account as an active balanced investment strategy with the funding policy for our pension account as an active moderate investment strategy. Providing an active approach will potentially allow the investment earnings to outperform the benchmark, therefore reducing the amount needed to be input into the trust.
I'll second that.
Call for a vote.
Councilmember Kong,
Nervously, yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Mohovi,
Yes, if I kept it under my mattress, it would be worth less today.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to item D. Memorandums of Understanding with the Bishop Employees Association, Management Group, and the Bishop Police Officers Association. Back to you, Dustin.
All right, so over the past couple months, city staff has been meeting with each of the bargaining units, which includes the Bishop Police Officers Association, the Bishop Employees Association, Middle Management, and Management. The current labor contract will expire on June 30th, 2022. If the proposed agreement is approved, the agreement will cover the following 3 years, starting July 1, 2022, and ending on June 30th, 2025. I just wanted to point out a few of the highlights that are reflected in these contracts. Number one is the cost of living, or the COLA. This will be a moving target each year. It could be as low as 1% and as high as 4%. It'll be based off the San Bernardino Riverside Consumer Price Index. This is getting to be a very common way. It actually reflects what's going on for the cost of living in our area. The county, Inyo County, is using this same exact model for theirs as well. So this year, it's already has been established at a 4% cost of living. Another big item is the deletion of holidays for the Bishop Police Officers Association. The group will be paid an 8.5% increase on their pay, but will no longer receive holidays. So the holidays are a major nightmare, really, for addressing work out, shifts, covering coverage. And then they're also, every time we have to work on a holiday, we're also getting time and a half on the holiday. So we'll alleviate a lot of liability that the city has with that. Both the employees, Bishop employees, and the POA will change to a uniform allowance rather than the city supplying those uniforms. It's an accounting nightmare for Jana because of these are purchasable items. And when people are buying things here and there, and she's just have to count with hers all the time for it. So this will straighten up that. And then there's also some various changes to education and certificate allowance, but important to note the cap of 15% will stay intact. It's just letting them have a little more choice of how they would like to earn their incentives or education. I think it'll also go a long ways in incentivizing people to get those educations and look to move up. Economic impacts, a positive, healthy employee negotiations, enhanced productivity and services for our citizens. The proposed agreements and the costs associated were included in the fiscal year 22-23 budget that we approved last meeting. And so at this point, staff would recommend council approve the proposed MOUs for each bargaining unit.
Thank you, Dustin, for doing such a good job with this. It's a lot of work, and I think everyone's happy all around. So, any comments?
I mean, I think it's great that you're streamlining a lot of those processes, especially when it comes to uniforms, because I imagine it's a nightmare for Jana to just be buying everything for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Des, I'd like to say thank you to you and to all the members that came together to make this happen, to not have a never-ending stream of phone calls and complaints and a battle, but coming to decisions that need to be made, and what's best for both parties. I think it's equitable and well done. And it's just nice to see it, like you said in your part here. I mean, happy employees do good work. So I thank you for that and providing that for our city. I think it makes our job up here easier. We have things moving forward. Quick question, Dean. When we approve this, do we have to approve it by each, or can we lump them all together, just approve all MOUs? Okay.
Any public comment? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I mean, the only other thing I'd say is that it's great that, so this is for the next 3 years. And so we don't have to deal with employee negotiations, and we could just not worry about that and just do our jobs. And so, yeah, with that.
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve the proposed MOUs for each bargaining units in one motion.
Okay. Motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Mohovi,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, council.
Okay. Last item, cancellation of July 25th, 2022 City Council meeting. Council to discuss and consider canceling the July 25th, 2022 regular City Council meeting.
Trying to find it. Forgot to mark that one. Must be the last page, huh? So in the past, council has canceled the second regular meeting in December due to the Christmas holidays and a potential lack of a quorum. Likewise, due to many families taking off time in the summer for vacations and a lack of agenda items and the potential lack of a quorum, city staff would like to consider canceling the second regular meeting in July. The city council's next regular scheduled meetings would be June 27th, July 11th, and August 8th would be the next one if we cancel the 25th meeting. If council so desires, consideration is requested to cancel the 6 p.m. regular scheduled meeting on July 25th, 2022.
I mean, we've done this in the past. It helps with my backpacking time.
He gives me a day off for my birthday, so yeah.
I'm actually taking next meeting to go backpacking because I don't want to chance the smoke.
Fires.
Yeah.
Smart, that's smart. Any comments from anyone else?
So your birthday's on the 25th?
Yep.
Oh.
That's
Sure.
why then.
Yeah.
That's why I say thank you.
I guess my thought is that if we canceled it today and then something came up, we could always put it back if we needed to.
Could always call a special
Yeah.
meeting
All right.
within
That was-
24 hours.
That's my only thing.
Any public comment? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to cancel the 6 p.m. regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, July 25th, 2022.
Or Jose Garcia.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a first and a second. Call for a vote.
Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Mohovi,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Fantastic. Future agenda items. Let's start maybe with you, Stephen, and then we'll just make our way down.
Nothing new. I just wanted to remind to have a discussion at some point about all of our approaches, or in particular, vacant properties and what we can do about housing in that regard.
I can't remember if we discussed this as a council or just with Destin. I would like to, for future, as we're moving forward here, look at redoing this room. Paint some walls white, tear out that seating, put in some other seating. And I think we could sell that seating because it's kind of collector's items. And truly fund probably everything else just from people wanting
I love walking into the past.
and bring the people in closer.
Update the chambers. You'd like to update the chambers?
That's the word I was looking for. And I want to move that podium to a different spot and adjust it. Just get us back, you look at meetings and Mammoth meetings, some of these other meetings, we're kind of stuck in a history lesson here.
Okay.
With our new camera system.
I don't have anything. Karen?
I think I mentioned this to Destin, but I would love to hear an update from IMACA and see how things are going with the programs.
So I reached out to Kate. She'll be here on August 8th meeting.
Fabulous.
Jose?
Yes, I would like to remind that in the near future, let's talk about sidewalks.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's all.
Then we can just go in the opposite direction.
I have nothing to report as far as committee meetings because there hasn't been any meetings since our last meeting here.
I too haven't been to any meetings since our last meeting, so I have nothing to report.
I went to the climate meetup at Saracoso, and there is a lot going on with the amount of jobs and money that's dedicated to climate resilient jobs. The college is doing a bunch of training to train locals to become well-paid professionals in the jobs that are coming up with, forest management and wildfire management. And so it was great to see that the college was working really well with the new business development center and working well with these new grants that have come out of the SCOG to, one, help create a more resilient forest, and two, to give people that live here access to great training for real well-paid jobs. So if we can get them places to live, then it's a home run. And then Jeff Griffiths basically covered most of the SCOG items. And for the ESTA, we approved the budget and we reinstated the Bishop Creek shuttle. Was there anything else?
Yeah, just some modifications to that to make it not such a,
Right, it'll be more expensive.
yeah.
Right, but less expensive than the private shuttle service.
But-
So,
Yeah, and there's a new focus coming towards, it's called microtransit, similar to the Ubers but ESTA to run a 15-passenger bus all through town. They're trying to get a little more faster service focused in smaller, more targeted vehicles. So it's kind of a new, there's been a lot of discussions happening about what do we need to make, it's a lot of stuff being wanted with a little budget. So they did a good job putting it together and
You said faster service?
faster.
Yeah, is that what you said?
Yeah, it will speed up the,
Hopefully they will not be speeding through our streets. Sometimes I see those shuttle drivers making some very dangerous moves.
we're gonna slow them down.
Okay.
that is it. We had 5th grade promotion for my son, and that was very exciting. So he moved into 6th grade, and yeah, that's it for me.
All right. Yeah, Jeff pretty much nailed down our meeting. The airport discussion, there was I think that was John from Mammoth.
Yes, John Erdy.
Yeah, Erdy. There was a component in there for the council that was kind of neat to listen to, was that Bishop is an active kind of player, and they're looking at how many people are here. The numbers that we're looking at from last year, although they were good numbers and the service was needed, they also recognized out of all the entities that it was COVID, almost worst time to start a new project like this. So this year's numbers are going to be real telling to see where we're going and what the focus will be. So I think you could hear it in the discussion that they're looking forward to seeing what it's going to be like in a more normal year, to see with one half of one flight being canceled compared to the 28 per day they had before. The numbers were night and day.
Yeah.
So I think we're in a good spot, and it'll be interesting. I think as a council, we're gonna need to keep an eye on where that goes, because it's gonna impact some of our decisions here. So we'll keep you up to speed on that the best we can. Talked about ESTA. I went to the concert in the Rocks last Saturday, and they recognized a bunch of people, and I had to stand up on a rock and wave, which then I just became a focus of talks. But it was great to see that kind of, I'd never been before in my life, and to see that kind of caliber of performances and community come together. Well done. And that would be it for me. So thank you, guys.
Cool. So we have the LTC this week. We've been making some progress on actually trying to identify locations for funding to do the very first step, which is just a project scoping document on a truck route. So we're trying to push that forward. Didn't have any meetings, but had a great time at Mule Days, had a great time at Pride. We'll have a great time at the high school rodeo tomorrow. So lots of stuff going along in town. And the last bit of news that I have is, if you remember a few weeks back, or maybe a month back, I said that I had spent some time actually filling out some applications for federal earmarks. And I was like, oh, that's a really low chance of getting anything. We've passed the first mark. Senator Padilla has endorsed two of both of our earmark projects. One is for $2 million for sidewalks and safe routes to school. And the other one is for the planning and engineering design of a civic center, which is PD, fire department, and city hall, for $3.75 million. So those are pushing along, and now we still not guaranteed, but ours were those were the two projects of the eastern part of the state that were put forth in the earmarks. So fingers crossed, knock on wood, maybe that'll come to fruition.
Nice.
Job.
That's all I got.
Mhm.
Okay, well then I will adjourn this meeting to Monday, June 27th, 2022 at 6 p.m. here at the City Council Chambers.
I asked for 5. Settled for 3.75.
If I have to sit this.